And hello again. In our earlier segment, we got a taste of just one of the films being presented at this year's St. Louis Filmmakers Showcase. We'll get a more complete idea of what's going on now, that is, with Chris Clark, Artistic Director of Cinema St. Louis. Chris, good to have you with us.
Good afternoon. Good to be here.
Getting excited?
Yes, very.
Yeah. Give us some sense of what's going on, the variety that you're having this year in the festival.
It's, as always, a wide range of subjects and filmmakers and people from all walks of life. The age range this year is quite stout. The youngest is a plucky 12-year-old girl who wrote and directed and starred in her own short film, up to a first-time 84-year-old filmmaker, former U-City resident who lives in Arizona now, is so very excited and is flying in to commune with his friends and family to watch his film.
One of the requirements, of course, is you got to have a St. Louis connection, right?
Yes, that is the very core purpose of this event, is to celebrate the vast and deep pool of St. Louis filmmakers, and some very, very good ones at that.
Well, you've got short subjects, and you've got feature films, and you've got documentaries. I mean, you're really all over the place. Do you encourage any one type over another?
No. We have an open submission process, which starts in late January and goes through May 31st every year. As always, most of the submissions come in the last 2 weeks, but that's I'm prepared for that. But it's whatever comes in. What we look for is just the most compelling, interesting, unique stories told in the best way.
Do you have a group that sits down and evaluates what stays in and what does not?
This is a fiefdom. It is a party of one, and the party is me for this particular event, yes.
You've got the power.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to use that word, but yes.
Yeah. What are you particularly excited about this year?
One of the crown jewels of the city itself is the Muni Theater. Mm-hmm. What a wonderful institution. There's a documentary made by our good friends at HEC, Kathy Bratkowski, who I think you know. Mm-hmm. It's called The Best of Us, 100 Years of Muni Magic, and it's just a wonderful, illustration of the how it got there and why it's important, and just a beautiful, wonderful story about something that's very important to us. To the other end of the scale, a non-St. Louis filmmaker made a film about a murder in St. Charles in the early 80s and the aftermath of the man in prison and the survivors of the family. So those very polar opposites of storytelling.
So the filmmaker doesn't have to be a St. Louisan, but the content, if not the content, then should.
The fleur-de-lis has to, be proudly not displayed, but St. Louis is the star.
What are some of the other documentary subjects beyond the sound that we just talked about and about the murder that you just mentioned?
Well, you talked to Justin earlier about Gateway Sound, and there's a couple other more. Let me kind of flip through this real fast. There's so much going on, I forget what's happening sometimes.
Sure. How many do you have? How many films
There's 107 films total, 9 of which are feature-length films. And the rest, it's the math, 97 or 98 are short subjects. There's an interesting sort of a featurette. It counts as a feature. It's only 42 minutes long. It's called Daniel Lord, S.J., The Restless Flame. It's about a Jesuit priest named Daniel Lord who lived and worked a couple streets over at St. Louis University, who over time wrote hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pamphlets, they used to give out, wrote a number of lavish plays, and was also the co-author of the MPAA movie rating code. Mm-hmm. So just what a fascinating career, despite his day job, if you will, as a Jesuit priest.
Sure. And what about some of the features?
There's one feature that has just such a fascinating backstory. It's a family musical called A Song for Sarah, and it was originally shot on film, and that's part of the tale, in 2003. They got a call from the film lab. They had lost 60% of the reels.
Oh, wow.
And in those days, they were shooting on film. There was no chips. There was no digital anything. There was no camcorders. There was no backup of any kind. So to remount, with a large cast and musical numbers and lots of people and actors and people and time, there's no way to recreate. Can you imagine something like that? So they, brushed off their shoulders and went on with their life in the rearview mirror until they got a phone call in 2011. The new owners of the film lab called and say, "Hey, we found a box. Guess what's in the box? The rest of your film." So they had to put their heads back around it and get some money back together and get the team back together. And digitize it, and then spent a long time kind of tinkering, 7 more years, to get to the finished product, which is delightful, cheerful little film. The lead actress, who was 12 or 13 or 14 at the time, is now almost 30, 15 years later, and working as an actress in L.A. But, now is its time.
Are any of the films that you're showing and featuring actual film, or is everything digitized?
Film. I read about that in history books. Yeah. No, everything. We rarely, if ever, show anything on film these days in any of our events. Usually it's an archival presentation of some special older film that we'll show during the International Festival in the fall, but not during this event, no. Everything's you can't see any of it. It's all in the air somewhere.
I got a call the other day from one of our mutual friends, I'm sure, Allison Mace.
Oh, yes.
Who wanted to alert me to the fact that she's involved somehow in a film that is a feature film, as I take it.
Yeah, Allison being involved in something like this. So, all roads connect to each other in St. Louis. Yeah, she is the producer of another feature film, a narrative feature film called Parallel Chords. And its backstory is that originally the young female filmmaker, Kathleen Dudley Rose, has had films in this very event, the showcase, many times over time. In 2015, she had a short subject called Parallel Chords that did very well and won some awards and won awards in other festivals. Well, she decided that it was bigger than that container and wanted to make a feature. So she did crowdfunding and worked the streets and worked everything as hard as she could and got a crew back together and did it. Made it from a 10 to 15 minute short into a 100-minute feature. And it is shown in other cities and other festivals already, but this will be its local premiere. Yeah, Allison is a producer.
Yeah, and better known perhaps as the gal who runs Sauce Magazine.
Sure.
That's her first baby.
Everybody's lots of hyphenates.
Exactly. But I saw the trailer for that one, and it looks like quite an interesting project and film. And you're going to end all of this with an awards ceremony.
As our custom, we will do awards, 2 tiers of awards. We have a group of jurists all about the land, filmmakers and film critics and people of interest who are jurying all the films. And we're meeting on Monday in our sanctuary down the street in our headquarters. And at the party, we'll reveal the jury members will give sort of Academy Award type categories: best film, best editing, best cinematography, that type of thing for the narrative and documentary categories. And then the staff of Cinema St. Louis will announce a short list of films that will graduate to be included in the St. Louis International Film Festival in November.
In the past, have many of these films gone on beyond some of these local festivals?
Sure, lots of things find places. Shorts aren't as you don't really know the names as much, but they'll wind up all over different, YouTube and Funny or Die or things like that. But features, certainly. There have been a number of features we've shown in this event. One a number of years ago called Ghost Image, was sold to Showtime and points all over the world. Our opening night film in the festival last fall was a film called Bad Grandmas. That's on Showtime currently. So things do make it.
Yeah.
Things do make it.
Well, great. Anything you want to add before we say goodbye?
This is not just for the filmmakers and their friends and family and grandmas and stuff like that. It's for everybody. And I think people will be truly impressed to see the deep quality of the local filmmaking community. And there's lots of entertainment.
And all being shown at the same venue?
At Brown Hall and Washington University's campus, yes.
We'll put a list and a link to your site on ours so people can see that schedule, which, as you say, is formidable with more than 100 films.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chris Clark. Great to see you. Thanks, you so much for being with us.
Okay.
He is the Artistic Director of Cinema St. Louis. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.